Shalom, Apostle Talking. I'm back at you with this truth, giving all praises to Yahweh by Shem Yahweh Shai by Shem HaKadosh. And I'm going to entitle this video, Learn Not the Way of the Heathen. Long hair on a man is of the way of the heathen. So you see up on the screen here, I put in Homer long hair Greek man, should say Greek men. Article came up a couple of months ago, why Spartan men had long hair. Why Spartan men had long hair. They had long beards, but they also had long hair. Let me bring this up. And it was part of their custom. It was a thing of status. And you can see here that the Spartans were Jake. You can see that they were Jake. And one of their customs was to have grow long hair as a status symbol, as a custom. And a lot of the warriors had long hair. But that's the way of the heathen. You know, when you watch the movie Troy, we all saw that movie. The main character was this guy. He played Achilles, played by Brad Pitt, and he had that long flowing hair because they were trying to portray the Greeks of that time. Like I said, when I read the article, you'll see that it's a status thing. Matter of fact, let me just go on into it. Let me bring this back. Okay, let me bring this up. You see this? What is this? Coiffure Legendier. The hair gods of Olympus. And you can see like this image right here. You can see this is a man. This is not a woman. This is a man with long hair. But you can see it's not, as we say, white people's hair. These are all Jakes. The greatness of the Greek warriors of the Hellenistic period were Jake. Okay, here's another picture. See the long hair? Ancient Greek hairstyle for men. See how long the hair was? And that was Jake. They had the Lord. So some of them didn't have beards, but a lot of them had the long beards. Check out the movie. The 300. They had those long beards. Here's another image, same image as this one. See the long hair. They glorified in the long hair. Homosexuality in ancient Greece. So these were Jake. These were two Jake men. They got to cut this out. He was. So this is the way of the heathen, man. And the Spartans in the movie 300, King Leonidas referred to the Athenians as boy lovers. Well, guess what? The Spartans were boy lovers too. They was out in the field practicing, man. When they got aroused, there was an older men that were experienced warriors that took under their wing the younger Spartans coming up. And in their downtime, they would have sex with them. And the boys didn't have no problem with it because they looked up to the older men. Learn not the way of the heathen. Learn not the way of the heathen. Okay, you can clearly see that this is a Jake. See his skin. And who is he? Who is he getting ready to kill? An Edomite. Let's see what else I can find. Okay. Ancient Greek pederasty. What does that mean? Your older man with a younger boy. Normally, a Spartan, they wouldn't have women around. They would be out in the field practicing. So they would have their downtime. They would get these young men. So all these guys, like King Leonidas was popped a couple of times. Let me look up this word, ancient Greek. Matter of fact, I'm gonna put the whole phrase out there. Let me do this. The hell? Let me come on back. Bear me for a minute. This is why the Apostle Paul I didn't want this either. What the hell happened here? I guess I X'd that out. I got to bring that back. Learn not the way of the heathen. Now I got to find the Apocrypha again. Oh, no, I didn't go to the Apocrypha. I went to the images. Let me find that image again. Bear with me for a minute. Okay, I believe it's this image that led me to the other image. Homosexuality in ancient Greece. Oh no. Oh no. Look at this. Look at this shit. Look at this. And there's an older Jake man getting his, getting his lollipop sucked. This is sick. Learn not the way of the heathen. The army of same-sex lovers. And these were Jakes. Let me blow it up. You can see that they're Jakes. The army of same-sex lovers who made up Sparta's biggest rivals. So it wasn't just the Athenians, it was the Spartans that I'm trying to find. That image I lost. It should come up right here. Okay, there it is. LGBT XYZ in the ancient world. In bed with the ancient Greeks. These are two men. Homosexuality in ancient Greece. Ancient Greece lesbian kiss. This is why the Most High had to destroy this present world, this world system. And the number one place that's going to be destroyed is Babylon the Great. Isaiah 13, Isaiah 34, many scriptures on that. But anyway, let's do this. I didn't want to do that. Let's do this. Click on this. Let's go here. So I want to go. Yeah, we don't need this anymore. Okay, let me try. Let me go here. Let me take this word here. Bear me for a minute. Let me click here. Pederasty in ancient Greece was a name given to a sexual relationship between an adult male and a young boy, usually in his teens. So that was part of their custom. So let's just deal with the word. Let's focus on this word. Listen up.
Pederasty.
Pederasty, sexual activity involving a man and a boy or youth. Learn not the way of the heathen. Long hair on a man is heathenistic. That's why the Apostle Paul cursed out the men of Corinth, because what they did, they had long hair because they were following, they liked certain things of the Greeks. So, the Apostle Paul had to get that, that Greek heathenism out of them, man. So he commanded them that you men got to, you got to cut your hair. And that's a fashion thing among these different Israelite groups, which is clearly, let's deal with Bishop Nathaniel. He's going to these church. Last church that he went to was Geno Jennings' church, and he's telling them that they're going off on this and they're going off on that. And the scriptures say in Matthew 7, I believe it says it speaks about taking a beam out of your eye before you take the mote out of someone else's eye. You can't tell a guy to get correct when you're not correct. And you clearly have men in the IUIC and other groups, leaders and men that have long hair. So, in Sakari, you got guys with long hair. And why they do that? So they can get the galleys. But that's a custom of the Greeks, or the heathens. And what you got to understand is Hellenization really came from Jake, because Jake pushed it. It was forced on them, but Jake pushed it. Hey, the Apostle Paul in Acts 17, he had to get on Israelites in Athens, Greece. Those are your modern day, today would be the Kemetic community. You got these guys, Kemetic guys, they're one unit, but they all have different, philosophies, so to speak, slightly different. So they have debates with each other. See, the contrast is they got to get a Hebrew Israelite, an Israelite in there. Okay? So this is why the Apostle Paul said what he said. Let me go and Oh, Isaiah 2:2. We're going to teach the nations the laws. Ain't gonna be no men with no long hair. Okay, let me go to First Corinthians. First Corinthians 11. Let me try verse 14. Let's see what verse 14 is all about. See, Jake wanted to come into the truth, what they had in the past. The scriptures speak about being a new creature, right? Being born again. Yeah, but you know what? I get more galleys with this long hair. What do you think Jake put a stocking cap or a do-rag on their hair and put grease on it to get them waves? That attracts the woman. Do not even nature teach itself that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him. Now let's see what this says. Nature itself. This may mean either the native inborn sense of what is seemingly as contrast with revelation, or it may signify the ordinary and evidence, agreement of things, but I'm trying to get to the point. Probably the former meaning, blah, 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 blah. Okay, here we go. Probably the former is the true meaning of the passage, which refers to the fact that the heathen who had no direct revelation did, by regarding long hair as a woman's glory, by nature, the things contained in the law. So the reference is Romans 11, verse 14. If by any means I may provoke to immolation them which are my flesh, and might save some of them. Let's look on. Okay, let's go to Cambridge. Does not even nature itself teach you the argument from nature must not be pressed too far? St. Paul is speaking of the natural sense of what is fitting in those whom he addressed. In early times, the Greeks and the Romans wore long hair. Talking about the Greek and the Roman men. Learn not the way of the heathen. And the Gauls and the Germans did so in St. Paul's own time. So what did these, when the Apostle Paul cursed out the men of Corinth for having long hair, and he says it's a shame for you, they, like I said, these were Israelites that were raised up as heathen. Just like all of us at one time or another, before we came to the truth, before you heard us on YouTube, or however you came in, before that, you were eating pork, you were going to church, you thought that so-called Jesus was a white man. Oh, then you got guys calling on Jesus. That's the first thing you should get rid of that name. That's a cool name. Here you go, going back to the IUIC. They go into these churches, but they're going to these churches in the name of Jesus. And guess what? The churches push the name of Jesus. This is blasphemy. This is madness. This is confusion. As it did so St. Paul's own time. So Homer, that's the guy that you all saw the movie Troy, right? With Achilles. What's this guy? Brad Pitt. He played Achilles, right? That was a play that Homer, one of the seven sages, wrote. And he was a Jake, by the way, with a big nose. It says continually speaks of the what? Long-haired Greeks. That's why Paul That's why it's in the scriptures. That's why that statement's in the scriptures. Now the script, you're in danger of adding or taking away from the scriptures. There's a reason why all scripture is given, all scripture, including everything that Paul said, all scripture is given by what? For doctrine, for reproof, for correction in righteousness. So he corrected them, he rebuked them. It said Saint Chrysostom, all right, Saint Chrysostom remarks that those who addicted themselves to philosophy in his day wore their hair long, talking about the men, not the women. But this was mere affectation. Bonaparte non ongus penecurat. I'm not even going to try to continue to read that. Non-barber. I guess that means bearded. Secreta pitet loca balnia vitet, whatever the hell that means. But the general verdict of society has been that appeared to be the apostle, which is Paul, this instinctive consciousness of propriety on this point had been established by what? By custom. That's their custom, and had become nature. Let's look at some more. Doeth not even nature itself teach you? Nature here has much of the lame sense as instinct. His hair, large front, and eyes sublime, declared absolute rule, and Hayek Sintin locks round from his parted forelocks, manly hung clustering, but not beneath his shoulder broad. She as a veil down to the slender waist, that long hair, her unadorned golden tresses wore. They talking a lot of crap. Okay, they even make a reference to Matthew Poole's commentary. He tells them that they could not judge this as a thing commonly, for nature itself taught them that it is a shame for a man to wear long hair. By nature, here some understand the law of nature, according to which being a Mo is against nature. So Esau is against nature, to which it would have an intrinsic evil in it, which, let me try to get to the point, which it is plain it have not, for then neither must the Nazarites have used it as they did. Let me just come down. There's a lot of gobbledygook. Others, therefore, by nature, here understand a common custom, which, as they say, maketh as it were a second nature. So the term is taken in Romans 11, verse 24. For if you were cut out of, I can hardly see it. For if you were cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature. Oh, that's good. Cut out of the olive tree, which is wild by nature. That long hair on the man is wild by nature, man. That's why you got to be born again. That's why you got to come in as a new creature. See, these guys are coming in with what they want to come in. You got guys with tattoos, man. Now you did the tattoo thing. You didn't know. You didn't know you were going off. But then you got certain camps that got money that brag about money. Why don't you just take all your men and say, okay, we're gonna take it to the laser thing and get the tattoos removed? You ain't gonna do that because you like your tattoos. Well, I didn't know, but you like your tattoos, man. When nobody's around, you show them off. You wear the t-shirt so your tattoos can show. Learn not the way of the heathen. Jake is all in the tattoos, man. They're in the tattoos, they're in the mohawks. They love the world. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. For if thou loveth the world, the love of the Father is not in you. All right? Okay, Gill's exposition of the entire Bible, doeth not even nature itself teach you, this is Paul, by nature it is either meant the law and the light of nature, reason in man, common sense, or rather custom. Where did they get the custom to have men having long hair? From the Greeks, which is second nature, and which is in the case must be restrained to the Greeks and the Jews. For though among the Grecians, or you know what the Grecians are, they're Israelites. They know that they're Israelites, but they lived in another, mainly Greece, but that's referring to anywhere the Israelites lived outside of Jerusalem. But they were practicing the law, statutes, and commandments. The men said among the Grecians, the men cut their hair and did not suffer it to grow long, as also did the Jews. Yet there were many nations who did not. These are Israelites coming back into the fold. Even at that time, observe such a rule or custom, but as the Jews and Greeks were the persons chiefly, if not solely, known to the Corinthians, the Israelites of Corinth, and the church of Corinth, they gave the Apostle Paul the hardest time, man. When he needed money, they didn't want to give him money. He was constantly cursing them out. They came out of that heathen way. They were committing adultery. That's in 1 Corinthians, chapter 5, the first couple of verses. And you had a man that had a woman, and then you had the son of the man who had this was a second woman, divorced from the first woman or whatever. And this guy was popping his father's wife, which is clearly goes back to the Lord. So they were definitely going off. You had women in authoritative positions. So Paul had to get on them, man. It says the apostle signifies that the uses of these people might direct and inform them in this matter. That if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him. He looks unmanly and womanish. Now, to the Greeks, to the Hellenized Greek, Hellenized Greek, same thing. It was a sign of status. The warriors had the long hair. That was the way, learn not the way of the heathens. They practiced the way of the heathens. They were heathens. And exposes himself to ridicule and contempt, disrespect. So let me go to the actual precept. Let me see how we're going to do this. Bear with me for a minute. All right, let me do it. Let me do it this way. 1 Corinthians 11 and 14. NIV, does not the very nature of things teach you that if a man has long hair, it is a disgrace to him? New Living Bible, NLT. Isn't it obvious that it's disgraceful for a man to have long hair? English Standard Version. Does not nature itself teach you that if a man wears long hair, it is a disgrace to him? King James. Doeth not even nature itself teach you that if a man have long hair, it is a shame unto him? Let's go to the next verse, 15 verse. Let's go to the King James. But if a man have long hair, it is a glory. But if a woman have long hair, it is a glory to her, for her hair is given her for a covering. And you know what? The hair of a woman's hair is a glory. And so what did the Most High do to our women? Take away her glory. But if any man seem to be contentious, you have an argument with that. We have no such custom, neither the churches of the Most High. Okay, this is not part of our custom of being Israelites for a man to have long hair. That's why in the previous verse 15, he said there's nothing wrong with a woman's supposed to have long hair. A man's not supposed to have long hair. It's a shame to him. We read the commentary from the so-called Edomite scholars. So he said, but if any man seem to be contentious, if you have a problem with it, we have no such custom, neither the churches of the Most High. We don't, none of the churches have long hair, man, among men. All right? Now you got guys that are slick. Oh, I'm under the law of the Nazarene. But when the Passover comes, you break the law of the Nazarene, you still got your long hair. Did not the Apostle Paul shave his hair? Let's go to that. I believe that's in Acts. What I'll do here, let me see how I'm going to do this. Okay, let me do this. Paul shaved, I'll put it that way, shaved his head. Okay, Acts 18, verse 18. We might want to read it in context. Let's start at 15, Acts 18, verse 15. But if it be a question of words and names and of your law, like, because we all about coming back to the law, right? And part of the law, first of all, you got to learn not the way of the heathens, right? Look ye to it, for I will be no judge of such matters. And he drave them from the judgment seat. And all the Greeks, what are the Greeks? The Greeks were, this is for vocab alone. What you even said that you had certain Israelites that followed the Greek custom. So in a sense, they became Greeks. Well, when you come across the word Greeks in the New Testament, receiving salvation is talking about Israelites that grew up not knowing that they were Israelites. And that goes back to the Maccabees. And I'm going to get a couple of precepts out of the Maccabees as well. It said, then all the Greeks took, Sosthenes, the chief ruler of the temple, should be temple, you can say synagogue, and beat him before the judgment seat. And Gallio cared for none of these things, And Paul, after this, tarried there yet a good while, because they were believers. There were unbelievers and there was believers. This is what our Acts, really you got to start at Acts 18 and then go right into Acts 19, when Paul, Paul Kersey brought this to me. When the Apostle Paul was teaching Jake, and he was with him for 3 months. And it said, as you read down, he was with either down with somebody else. You got to go through it for like 2 years. So there was times where Paul was with certain people for a great period of time, whether it be 3 months, a year, 2 years, because you had Jake that didn't believe, but then you had Jakes that did believe. So he was dealing with the ones that did believe and the ones that were questioning him because he saw them coming around. That you can't compare that to going to Geno Jennings' church. Geno Jennings didn't even come out. They're talking about if we have a meeting, we can do a sit. Geno Jennings don't want to have a meeting or a sit down, because if he did, he'll get cut up. He really doesn't understand the scriptures, man. And who's in his church? Nothing but old people. Ain't no young people in the church. Nothing but old black people and a couple of crackers. It says, let me read this again, 18 verse. And Paul, after this, tarried there yet a good while, and then took his leave of the brethren and sailed thence into Syria. You got a lot of Israelites in Syria, all throughout the Middle East. A lot of those people in the Middle East, people of Iran, a lot of them are Israelites. And with him, Priscilla and Aquila, having shown his head in Sanchia, for he had a vow. Now, what is that vow? We're going to see what the commentators have to say. And he came to Ephesus and left them there, but he himself entered into the temple, words to be temple, and reasoned with the Jews, because there were some that believed and some that didn't believe. And that's why he dealt with them. He didn't shake the dust off their feet. Now in Acts the 13th chapter, starting from the 40th verse, he was going back and forth with him, and then he shook the dust off his feet, because there were some that believed. When you go back to Acts chapter 19, it mentions a number of believers. There was 12 men that believed, and there was men that was added to those 12. It says, when they look, you don't be going to like Bishop Nathaniel said, oh, we'll be out here in, the next couple of weeks. Well, why are you gonna be out there? They ain't gonna wake up. Go back to Matthew's 10, starting from the 5th verse on down. If they don't accept your peace, then take your peace back and shake the dust off your feet. That's why Paul ultimately did that. It said, when they desired him to tarry long time with them, he consented not, but bade them farewell, saying, I must by all means keep this feast that cometh in Jerusalem. What feast do you think that's talking about? But I will return again unto you if the Most High will. And he sailed from Ephesus. Now, why didn't Apostle Paul say, okay, I'm gonna keep the feast with y'all to show you how to keep the feast? He left them out there so he can keep the feast. Because what were these people? These were Israelites coming out of that the heathenistic ways. That's why he made the statement in not Chronicles. I always say mix up Chronicles with Colossians. Colossians 2 verse 16. He said, "Let no man judge you meet in high holy days and the Sabbath day, which is a sign of things to come." I'm merely paraphrasing. He didn't put the pressure on them that they got to keep the laws. They got to learn of Yahweh Shai. That's why he didn't say, well, y'all come over to the feast. No, because you gotta grow in this thing. We're not going to put a burden on you to keep all the laws. You got to learn this. And as you learn this and as you become deeper, that's also in Colossians. I believe it's in the same chapter, if I'm not mistaken, either chapter 1 or chapter 2, where it speaks about being rooted. You get with a guy that listens to you, oh, I like what you guys are saying. A week later is a Passover. You tell him, come on to the Passover. You can't bring that man to the Passover because you don't know what he's going to do. You know, he'll go to the Passover. You know, he'll not eat leavened bread, and then the next day he goes to a pizza shop and he got an urge to eat pizza. He's gonna eat that pizza. Why? Because he's not grounded and rooted. And then when you get on him about it, he'll come against you. See, these guys are trying to put me in slavery. That's what they always say. Oh, they made me do it. And they said this and they urged me. That's why when somebody does something crazy, like kill their whole family and they're part of Israelite group, they'll say, oh, the leadership told them to do it. Well, then that should be happening all over the place. That should be the new trend. Crazy Israelites just killing everybody. No, you got bug outs that come into this thing. You got bug outs that come into this thing, man. So it said feast, right? What is this? The key verse that I want is 18. And Paul, after this, Terry, yeah, a good while. It took, but matter of fact, I'll read. Yeah, all I need is 18. All I need is verse 18. So let's go. Let's see what the commentary has to say. They're either hit or miss. Okay, Acts 18, verse 18. And Paul, after this tarried there yet a good while, and then took his leave, of the brethren that he was teaching, and sailed thence into Syria, and with him Priscilla and Aquila, having shown his head in Sanchia, for he had a vow. So we're going to find out what the commentators say. Let's see how much they know about this Paul shaving his head. And it said that he had a vow. Let's see what it says. Let's see what they say. Let's see what the so-called experts say. Okay, I guess Cambridge for Bible for schools and colleges, they bold. They got a lot to say. Let me see something. Let me try this. I want to try to go right to the point. Okay, this is what I wanted. Let me do it this way. Okay, Nazareth. 20 times. 20 times. So let's go over here. The Benson commentary, right? It says Jews made instruction against him what sort of a vow this was. We are not informed. Salmasius has justly observed, it could not be a vow of Nazariteship, for then the hair must have been burned in the temple. Well, they didn't tell you that. There's a whole thing. You cut the hair, then you burn in the temple. So they didn't tell you all of that. Because he had a vow. What kind of vow did he take? It says here, the vow itself is not to be considered as a Nazarite vow. Then what vow is it? That the Nazarite vow had, in this case, been interpreted by the Levitical blah 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 priesthood. Interpreted Nazarite vow. Okay, let's go right to the Cambridge. Okay, the Cambridge got it right, having shown his head in Centuria, for he had a vow. How many vows are there in the scriptures, in the law? But which also proved that the Apostle Paul kept the laws. In the law, you know, in the Torah, he already became a believer. The Lord visited him. The Lord didn't say, oh, by the way, Paul, you don't got to keep the laws no more. And when you go to Hebrews, he goes all into the law. And so we can observe all through the narrative of the acts that St. Paul, although the apostle of the Gentiles, meaning Israelites, that didn't know that they were Israelites coming out of that blindness, that darkness, did not cease to regard the festivals and ceremonies of the Jews. What are the festivals and ceremonies of the Jews? Passover was one of them. Feast of Tabernacle was another one. Oh, and by the way, for Paul Kersey, in Psalms 81 verse 3, when it speaks about blow up the new moon and blow up the full moon, in our feast day, singular. The Passover came in on the full moon. It came in on the full moon. The tabernacles came in on a full moon. So as in relation to the calendar, when does the Passover come in? 14th day at evening, right? Which is 2 weeks into the moon cycle. So that kills that full moon doctrine, which is of the devil. Full moon is not as new moon. Because if that was the case, the new moon being the full moon, the Passover would be on what we call a new moon, when the moon is almost invisible. So you're going off. You err not knowing the scriptures. It says festivals and ceremonies of the Jews, meaning based upon the law. The main precept that you can go to Leviticus 23, and then there's other laws that were other high holy days, feast days added to that. It says Jews and things which did not militate against the Christian liberty. For some reason, either during sickness or in the midst of his conflict at Corinth, he had taken a vow upon himself of the nature of the Nazarite vow. So they got it right. The Cambridge got it right this time. Numbers 6, verse 1. This could only be brought to its fitting close by a journey to Jerusalem, because Deuteronomy 16:16. Let me go back to what I said earlier in this video. He didn't tell them the Israelites in Ephesus and even Priscilla and Aquila. He didn't say, well, come on out to me because y'all are Israelites, so come on out. These were people coming, for the most part, coming back into the fold that they didn't know that they were Israelites, going back to what what's this guy, Antiochus Epiphanes did. He forced them to not be Jews, not at all to be a Jew. 2 Maccabees 6, verse 6 on down. So it says himself of the nature of the Nazarite vow. This could only be brought to its fitting close by a journey to Jerusalem to offer up the hair, offer up the hair. It was a part of the vow to leave uncut. At Jerusalem, when the ceremony was completed, the head was shaven. Acts 21, verse 24. Let's see what that says. It says, then take and purify yourself with them and be at charge with them, that may shave their heads, and all may know that those things whereof they were informed. I can hardly read this, letters are so small. concerning you, as are nothing but that you yourself also walk orderly and keep the law. So this kills this clown vocab alone. Oh, the law, you don't got to keep the law. So the Nazarene, you don't got to keep that. Well, guess what? The Apostle Paul kept the laws of the Nazarene. And the reason why he shaved his hair or showed his head, because he had to go to the Passover. So now, what do you got to do in the Passover? Part of the thing that you got to do in the Passover is you got to drink wine. When you're under the law of the Nazarene, you cannot drink wine. So guess what? He had to break the vow. And what you did was you kept the vow of the Nazarene for, it could be 6 months, it could be a year, and then you break it. And that's what Paul did. So at that time, I would say Paul had long hair. And the reason why he had long hair, because he kept the law of the Nazarite vow. So that proves right there that the Apostle Paul kept the law. I don't got to read no more. If you want to read more, you can read more. So now the Apostle Paul had long hair at one time or another. So why would he straighten out and curse out the men of Corinth, which were Israelites, which were Greeks, so you can understand? Because they had long hair because of a Greco-Roman custom. And a lot of them were in the, Moism too. That's why he got on them about that. But you can still come out of it. You can repent of that. Anyway, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this. I want to close it too quick. So that's why Jake is into that they low down. They do the low down thing because they were doing that back in another life. There's a picture again. There's a man with long hair and no beard. Learn not the way of the heathen. So now let's come back. All praises to Yahweh Shem Yahushai, B'Shem Kodash. Let's come all the way back. Okay, let me read some of this article here. I read it earlier. Okay. Right here, get my bearing straight. Why Spartan men had long hair. An ancient Greek vase depicting warriors with long flowing locks. Credit public domain. Now, you know what that means? That means you can use this picture, you can make, they can't get you on the copyright. It's public domain. Now you can see that they're Jake. You can see that they're Jake. The Greek warriors, the Hellenes. Let's read some of this story right here. In ancient Greece, here was an important indicator of class and place of origin, nobility. You know how Jake, they see Esau wear a three-piece suit and they'll get to say, they'll find out which suit, what you wearing, the Brook Brothers suit? Jake will go right there and get a Brook Brothers suit. Jake wear baseball caps, which is the way of the heathen, man. It goes back to the Greeks. Put a baseball cap on your head. You got guys out there with baseball fitted teaching the scriptures with long hair. Jake does whatever Esau, Esau eat a certain food. Jake want to eat that certain food because they want to be like Esau. They want to be accepted by Esau. So this is what happened back there, but it was forced on them. It said in ancient Greece, hair was an important indicator of class and place of origin, nobility. But that doesn't apply to us. Learn not the way of the heathen. You guys that say, keep the law, keep the law, keep the law. You ain't keeping the law. You following the way of the heathens. Spartan men were known for their what? Long flowing hair, which became linked to the ancient warriors in antiquities. While many would not associate long, beautiful hair with the famously austere warriors of ancient Greece, going back to the Spartans, they had the long hair and the long beards. I showed you the pictures on that, the vases. Maintaining their hair was very important to the Spartans. Well, wait a minute. The glory of a woman is their hair. That's why you open up a beauty shop, you're gonna make money, guaranteed. You open up a weave shop, a beauty shop, a wig shop, anything that has to do with hair, making your hair look beautiful, making your face look beautiful, that's something what women do. You go to any place in New York City or anywhere, to a Dominican women, that's a religion to them, man. That's a religion, looking good. They maintain the clothes, their hair. They're always in the beauty shop. Tell me I'm lying. A lot of Jake women be dressing like construction workers. A lot of these black women, they'll just tell it like it is. A lot of you look like men. You be looking at a dude, you think it's a dude, and you turn around and you kind of see the pimples, the bumps, and you say that that's a woman. They straight up dress like men. Not all of them, but a lot of them. They're completely out of order. A lot of these so-called black women, they get together in groups like wolf pack. There'll be 12 at night. You see 8 or 9 of them roaming the streets, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, like a wolf pack, man. Looking like men. Jake is completely out of order. But dealing with the Simeonite woman, they make it a point to look good. They stays in the beauty shop and the hair place. They stay, like I said, you make money doing that. So what did the Spartans do? The men, not only did they have long hair, but they maintained their hair. They washed it, they greased it up. It was a symbol of of status. It says this: while many would not associate long, beautiful hair with the famously austere warriors of ancient Greece, maintaining their hair was very important to the Spartans. Men likely wore their hair long for centuries in Greece. This is the Greeks' custom. Learn not the way of the heathens, as Homer, the man that wrote the play Troy, dealing with Achilles. He was writing around the 8th century BC, 800 years before the birth of our Lord. And that shows you that Greek philosophy really started with Jake. They made that up, and Esau caught up with it. And retelling stories that were much older often describe men as long-haired. There's a Greek word there. You know what I'm gonna do? Let me see something. Let me try something here. Let me do this. Let me click on this. Okay, I believe this is from the southern part of the Law Center. I could be wrong. Okay, this is so-called Rabbi Matthew. This represents the commandment keepers. Abba Bivens, which is Elijah, was a part of the commandment keepers and broke off and set up his own thing. And he was the only one that went into the New Testament. These people were Old Testament. You ever run into Old Testament? Zion Lex, he would be considered an Old Testament Israelite. Now, I don't know if he now sees a New Testament, but that was a break off. So, you know, a man like Zion Lex stemmed from one of the teachers of the commandment teachers, one of the men that came out of the commandment teachers. He did not follow Abba Bivens, right? There's a lot of, you can't deny this, man. It says right here, I'm not going to read this. It speaks about Jakes that noted the Israelites. It said, who observed the Sabbath and read the Torah. A star NBA player, Sotomayor, decides to move to Jerusalem on a spiritual journey, calling himself the descendant of an ancient tribe of the Hebrew Israelites. Now we're talking about Stoudemire. Parallel to the American Jewish story, another complex spiritual tale has been unfolding for over a century, 100 years, that of the Hebrew Israelites. Rabbi Matthew, that's Rabbi Matthew, second from the left at table, founder of the commandment keepers, which Abba Bivens was a part of, but he broke off. I said that earlier, leading a Passover Seder in what? 1941. Let me read a little bit more of this. I'm kind of going off topic. Who are Hebrew Israelites? Okay, it says Hebrew Israelites are a people of color, mostly African Americans, who view the biblical Israelites as their historic ancestors. So it's not just us, man. You know, you're fighting you're fighting an uphill battle, vocab, with trying to debunk us. Because while we're saying we're Israelites, you got millions of people in Nigeria that practice the law, statutes, and commandments, that identify themselves with Israelites or Hebrew Israelites, and say that they're direct descendants of the Israelites. Remember what happened in 70 AD. The Israelites had to scatter. And one of the places that they scattered to was to the interiors of Africa. Remember, they had for years, before the Lord was even born, you had a big community of Israelites in Egypt. Why do you think the angel Gabriel told Joseph and Mary, Joseph in a dream, to go into Egypt? And then the angel Gabriel came back and said, okay, the Herod the Great is dead, you can come back. Why would they go? Why would they have a big community in Egypt? Because those are Jakes. They fit in. So you got a lot of people that are in Egypt today that are Israelites. Except for Hebrew Israelites, the transatlantic slavery, Deuteronomy 28 and 68, was foretold in Scripture, Deuteronomy 28, 68. Joel 3, and Joel 3, starting from the top, it goes into transatlantic slavery. It says, and they understand those Africans who were enslaved in America as Israelites. So not only the one Westers believe that, the former commandment keepers believed that. The reason why they were practicing, you know, the high holy days and calling themselves Israelites, why? Because they knew that they were Israelites. See, back then they had the suits and the ties. See the ties, you got the hat on. Their heads are covered. And the fact that Abba Bivens broke off from the commandment keepers clearly proves to the spirit, if you have ears to hear, if you have eyes to see, spiritual eyes to see, if your pineal gland is open up, then you would understand that that's Elijah the prophet. Any one Wester that says different, this Most High haven't opened your eyes. Abba Bivens is Elijah. So let me read on. And I'm gonna come back to I'm gonna finish my subject, understanding those Africans and were enslaved in the Americas as Israelites, severed from their heritage. Now they are returning. Ezekiel 37, beautiful chapter, one of my favorite chapters. Israelites of all stripes today point to specific scriptures as prophetic proof of their ancestry. Thank the Most High for the prophecies, particularly Deuteronomy 28 for Israelites. And Deuteronomy 28 is not talking about, by the way, Deuteronomy 28 is not talking about one nation that we went under like the Assyrians. It talked about many nations. That tells you that I'm not going to go to it, but it tells you that we were going to be under the curses under all these nations with an S. It says for Israelites, the chapter describes a foretelling of slavery and servitude in America, which is Babylon. The Lord will send you back in ships to Egypt on a journey I said you should never make again. And really, he was saying in the wilderness. We never went back to the wilderness. Wasn't talking about Egypt. The chapter also describes those Israelites being made to serve false gods and lose knowledge of their true identity. And that's true. You know, we went to sleep. They all slumbered, the 10 virgins all slumbered and slept, meaning that they lost their nationality. Now they're getting it back. The Lord said, go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, because they didn't know who they were. They couldn't identify. Some of them knew that they were Israelites, practiced the law, statutes, and commandments, but they didn't know of Yahweh Shai. So it was the job of the apostles to tell the people that the Messiah is here. And many of those high priests and those scribes, they were believers of Yahweh Shai. That's in Acts 6 chapter. I may even go to that. So you can't stop this train, man. You can't stop this train. I'm gonna get back into the story of the Greeks, but I think I covered everything. Let me go here. Let me go here to, bear me for a minute. Acts 6, it's in Acts 6. I was looking for it the other day, looking in Acts 7. Okay, I'm gonna come down here. By the way, the Grecians against the Hebrews, the Grecians were Israelites that lived outside of Jerusalem. So the Hebrews that were born in Palestine, the land of Israel, they basically discriminated against them. Even though they're Israelites, you're not real Israelites. So let me get to the point. Bear with me for a minute. Okay, I think it's right here. And the word of the Most High increased, and the number of the disciples multiplied in Jerusalem greatly, and a great company of the priests were obedient to the faith. What is it talking about? The priests of Israel. So you can't say the scribes and the Pharisees and the priests was against them. There was a lot of priests that followed, that believed. That's also in Acts 15. Let's go to that. Acts 15. Acts 15:1, and certain men which came down from Yahweh taught the brethren and said, except ye be circumcised after the manner of Moses, ye cannot be saved. So these guys, they were following Yahweh Shai, but they said you still got to keep the law. You got to keep the law of circumcision. Now keep in mind Colossians 2:16. When therefore Paul and Barnabas had no small dissension and disputation with them, they determined that Paul and Barnabas and certain other of them should go up to Jerusalem unto the apostles and elders about this question. That's order. And being brought on their way by the church, they passed through. Oh, let me read this. I got my point. It said they passed through Phoenicia and Samaria, declaring the conversion of the Gentiles, which are Israelites that didn't know that they were Israelites, coming out of that darkness, vocab Malone. And they caused great joy unto all the brethren, the Israelite, brother meaning mother, meaning men, women, children. So let me jump to the point. Fifth verse, fourth verse. And when they were come to Jerusalem, they were received of the church and of the apostles and elders, and they declared all things that the Most High had done with them. Fifth verse. But there rose up certain of the sect of the Pharisees. Everybody, you a wicked ass Pharisee, which believe what? They believed in the Lord, but they were, hard on that law, saying, which was nothing wrong with that. What is Matthew 23:1 says? 23:1-2 says, do what they say, but don't do what they do, meaning keep the law. That it was needful to circumcise them and to command them to keep the laws of Moses. So these guys were believers, but they were still pushing the law. Did not the Apostle Paul keep the law of the Nazarene? Did not he shave his head? So he kept the laws. Anyway, I'm not going to read any more of that. I'm getting ready to close. I went a little too long, but that's how it go. I got to find that article again. Where the hell did I put it? Bear with me for a minute. If I can't find it, that means the Most High don't want me to go into it. Okay, I found it. Oh, this is what I want to do. I want to see if I can get this word. Tiberius Julius Alexander. When you read about him, he was raised up as an Alexandrian Jew that turned his back on Israel and wanted to fight for the Romans. He was the one that led the charge in 70 AD. But Titus got the credit because he was the son of Vespasian going into the history. Let me see if I can let's see what happens. Greco-Roman hairstyle. I guess that's what it means. That's all I'm going to do. Okay, let me come back. Okay, in ancient Greece, hair was an important indicator of class, blah, blah, blah. While many would not associate long, beautiful hair with the famously austere warriors of ancient Greece, maintaining their hair was very important to the Spartans. Men likely wore their hair long for centuries in Greece, as Homer, who was writing around the 8th century BC and retelling stories that were much older, often describing men as long-haired, and that's a Greek word for long hair. I mean, I don't got to read anymore. Let's read a little bit more. In the 6th century BC, long hair was common among most men across Greece because Corinth is a part of the Greek empire, right? The former Greek rulership, right? So that's what these Israelites came at it. Not just the Spartans, but by the 5th century, most non-Spartan men in ancient Greece began to cut their hair to a more modern length. But you had Israelites that liked that long hair. For the galleys, men and women in Athens often wore their hair in a knot. That's something that Jake does today, which was secured with a golden clasp that looked like a grasshopper called a ketex, which also translates to seseda, whatever the hell that is. Somebody help me. The particular hairstyle was called krobilos, and that's the style. And men are not supposed to be styling their hair, man. You could cut it short and you go with it, man. After the end of the Persian wars, which lasted until 449 BC, many men across Greece, which was Jake was involved in that, began to crop their hair short, which was seen both as more masculine and distinctive from the Persians, because the Persians had long hair. Why? Learn not the way of the heathen. They were heathens. That's why Paul said what he said. It's a shame for a man to have long hair. Who had long hair? Previously, long hair on a man had been associated with wealth and status in Athens, while slaves had their hair closely cropped. Now, you a slave, we got to cut your hair. So guess what? You guys with your long hair in Israel, that's the way of the heathen, man. The Persians did it, the Greeks did it, and you doing it, man. Anyway, with that, I'm gonna say shalom.